Welcome to Mythbusters. Why the strange title of the session, heavyweight versus lightweight? Because I get exactly the questions all over the time. Actually, yesterday, someone on Twitter said, someone in the session meant Java is too heavyweight, and what it means actually. It's like, I don't know, ask the speaker. I have no idea what it means. And in projects, I can tell you stories over and over again. In one project, they wanted to have microservices. As a huge shop, they had several hundred Java EE applications. So, I mean, real Java EE applications, which means application server. And then say, oh, for microservices, it won't work anymore. And the idea was to use just Jetty. And I was asked how to do this. So I look at this, it's like, okay, this is a lifetime for me job, because then we have to make Jetty to work like an application server with the dependency injection and everything else. And the question is, what we will gain? Do you really believe that if I will, patch Jetty for you, that it will behave like an application server? At the end of the day, I'm going to be smarter than, the whole Whitefly or Payara or Tommy team, and my application server is going to be smaller. And they say, actually, you're right. And what happened was, in this particular case, they ditched, after the presentation, Jetty, and they went with Payara full, in this case, in production. In other projects, Whitefly full or Tommy plus. What I never used is, you see why now after this course, anything with web profile. Because there was no measurable difference in my projects. If I cannot measure, I don't like such optimization. So I always use the full application server. And I think even if it has to run on the Raspberry Pi, it doesn't make any difference. So it makes a huge difference for the application server vendors, because if they have to provide the full platform, they have a lot of work to do. They have to implement the old stuff who no one cares about, but I'm not the vendor. Okay, I'm the user of the application servers, and for me, I forgot to mention, of course, you can ask me questions whenever you like. So the first question?
Okay, related to this, are you familiar with the Whitefly swarm?
Yes.
It's supposed to...
We will look at this during the session. I will launch a swarm and Payara swarm, and if you have other swarms, we can launch whatever is accessible, right, and measure this. So, yeah. And what I do usually, it is very dangerous to be involved in such discussions, because if you start to argue with what is heavyweight and lightweight, this is never-ending meeting. I mean, there will be no winner. So what do? We stop the meeting right away, go home, provide a proof of concept, create, read, update, delete with a performance test, measure the result, and say, look, these are the numbers. Now you can decide, is it worth to save, I don't know, 5 megs, 20 megs, 500 megs, 2 gig, or whatever. And if someone says, okay, if we do this, we save $5,000 or $20,000, then it is no or yes, but there's no more in my decision. The sad story is, if you do this, you will always stick with application servers. So if you would like your life more exciting in some more experiments, don't do this. What I do, yeah, I have a weblog and workshops, and this is probably interesting. So this is like question and answer. And then during the first Monday of the month at 6 p.m. CET, I forgot what is actually here in US, -9 hours, I think. And I have no time to answer questions via email, so I do this live streaming. And someone asked me, they use Undertow. This is like the HTTP server from Whitefly. And they would like to have just the Undertow and JAX-ORS, and they are pretty far, but the dependency injection does not work. So I wanted actually no time, but what interests me, how much time they spent to optimize this, and if they are ready and it will work, which problem do they have? First, this will be a unique combination of technologies just for the project. They created their own application server. And what will be really interesting to see whether this application server is faster, smaller, or more lightweight, whatever it means, than the actual Whitefly. So I asked them, why you not start with Whitefly and then delete whatever you don't like? Why you create your own? No answer, because probably it was too easy to do this. Okay? So, so I start always with definitions, because someone heavyweight and lightweight, this is dictionary I just fired up. I put a screenshot, and what it means, heavyweight is, okay, boxing does not apply to application servers. Above average weight, this could be, and the cool story is the adjective this, serious, important, or influential. This would be heavyweight. So, okay, if yes, then Java is extremely heavyweight. Okay? So otherwise, lightweight means sometimes this is in the amateur boxing scale, it ranges from 57 to 60 kilogram. So, but the adjective means lacking seriousness, depth, or influence is entertaining and rather lightweight. This is what I see. All these solutions I saw which were lightweight, they were entertaining, but rather lightweight. It means meaningless. Okay? So if you come to projects and say 2 is too heavyweight, and I'm in the project, I will ask you what? Startup time, RAM, download size, CPU overhead. What do you mean? Or is this just marketing? Sorry. So, okay, this was the last slide. This was just some workshops, and this is the last slide. Thank you. So, the question is, what I would like to do is to start some application servers, hack something for you, and measure this. And the question is, we get some numbers out. So, application servers full, I just will use full, and I will use the micros, because you asked. So, the question is, to what we should compare the numbers? I mean, if this what's coming out is heavyweight, we have to have a comparison to something, right? Which is lightweight. What would it be? Huh? Yeah, I will use WebSphere as well. So WebSphere is already in, but what else? Yeah, Tomcat is too boring. What I will do is create an ultimate microservice. What? WebLogic, I have it, but this is not the recent version, but I measured in the past, so I will tell the numbers. I could try to launch it, but I didn't launch it for a long time, WebLogic. Drop Wizard, yeah, what I will do even worse. I will provide something weightless or lightweight, and absolutely meaningless. So what I would like to do is to create the ultimate microservice, actually a unikernel, and I will start with a jar. I mean, this ultimate thing would be Java's E project, and call it white nano. Okay, I hope this was the right one. And this is nothing, it's just a POM. And what I would like to do is, I would like to create a Java class and call it com AX nano. And then one main method, public static void main. And server socket, right? Port, let's say 9090, hopefully is not used. New, and this throws some exceptions. The variable socket, and then socket.accept. What I get back is the socket. And at least it will block, so we can measure how much RAM it will receive. And I would say, regardless what you are doing, this is the absolute lightweightness, right? There will be no other Drop Wizard, Tomcats, Nanos, or whatever, which are smaller than this. So this is our reference. This is the smallest possible server with single-threaded, like Node, but at least a server. Agreed? So I think this is reasonable. This is socket, sorry, this is, let's call it as. And as get output stream, I guess, and then write weightless get bytes. I think it should work, so I would just build that, or just go to the command line. This is in junk folder, nano, maven package. Then we should get the target, and then say Java minus CP. This is not executable. Target, what was it? This was this. And com, airhex, and I think nano, right? Yes. So it runs. Cool, right? This is the future. Nano servers. So if you would like to be famous conference speaker, no dependencies, throw away everything else. You go to your Drop Wizard guys and say your application server are too heavyweight, use this. So then, JVisual VM, launch it. What do you expect? Huh? So it uses size 250 megs is its total consumption. And right now it uses 16 megabyte of RAM. So what it means, regardless what we are doing, it will be never better than this. Everyone agrees? So with JDK19, I could do some tricks with the module loaders. The question is, if I have such problems, either the application server is supposed to run on Apple Watch, right? Or we have serious budget problems, because I don't know how about the US, but in Germany, I can buy 64 gigabyte of ECC RAM for server for about 400 euros. So if I run the performance garbage collector, you see it is 7 meg. But I will have to run it frequently because there is no pressure, so it will never optimize to this. Okay? Everyone agreed? Good experiment, right? And this should actually work. So if I go here and say curl, let's see what, localhost 9080, would it? Cool, right? You see how lightweight Java is. Try this with Node, more code, and with Java SE works out of the box. Now, application server. So the easiest to me is to start Whitefly or Payara because I have them and I use them in the projects. So this is Whitefly 10.1 full, is the current one. There is 11 something, but this is the full Payara you can download, Payara Whitefly. And if you go to Whitefly, so we can check, for instance, download right now. And what I use, all application server distribution, I use the full one, the biggest, largest, of course. 10.1 full web and distribution, and there are 134 megabyte download size. So and this is the largest available Whitefly. The others are around 150 as well. So it means if you find a technology, it will be always hopefully smaller than this. The question is, do we have problem with that? This is like, 5 iPhone pictures, I would say. Okay? Everything else, what you download is usually larger than this. Some iPhone apps are larger than 150 apps. So the question is, what's the problem? And I build them frequently in Docker image, and even the download size is not a problem. But therefore, I use the largest one. If you look here, for instance, servlet only is 28, just servlets. But I never saw just a servlet in production in my projects. For me, sometimes we build load balancers just with servlets, but I mean, usually you would need something else. So it means the reference here would be 28 megs, right? So it's the smallest possible Whitefly. Okay, so now I start that, and this is not, this is a little bit cheating, but cheating in my disadvantage, because this Whitefly is already, has this highest monitoring setup, so there's the most overhead. So we do a measuring here is the largest possible overhead. So let's go here to the visual, and we see here JBoss full. Click to monitor, and we see 87 meg used without any changes. Perform GC, we see it goes down to 40 meg. What we had in Java were 5 megs, right? Or 6? 7. So what it means very good. So we have to be precise here. Otherwise, I get lots of trouble. So we have 7 megs with Java SE. The full Whitefly in idle takes, that just goes up because out of the box, it comes with -XMX setting. So it is less pressure on the JVM to collect the garbage. So what I have to do is to make it comparable, remove all these settings. Then it would be less. But we see, if I perform the garbage collection, then this is around 35 meg. So it means we can save 30 megabyte of RAM per microservice in production. Now, in my projects, we have at most 20 microservices. It means 20 teams, which are independent. It means in the full setup, in my client, we could save 600 megs of RAM. Now imagine me and say, forget your application servers. We should be more lightweight. If we do this and we spend a few days, we will save one time probably 600 megs of RAM. And my client will ask, as an enterprise company, so money rules, right? They are not like techies. They say, okay, how much is it? It's like approximately 5 cents. And they say, okay, completely strange, right? You can say, what's about clouds? So I did some Payara and Whitefly on Amazon ECS, and I forgot to disable the cloud with ELB, and it cost me $16 per month. 2 Whiteflies and an ELB running all the time. So the question is, you're a larger company, and you could save 50% to $8 a month. What's the difference? I mean, is it significant? Okay? So now we have what? Whitefly, done. Who said WebSphere? Okay. Try WebSphere. So just please remind me to stop the servers. So WebSphere is in different folder. I installed WebSphere. Servers. So this is the last one. And so this is the start. This is not the WebSphere kernel. What I did already, I set it this way that it uses the Java 7 web profile plus dependencies. And this is the WebSphere you can get with the WebSphere license. This is the newer one. So let's go here and we see here com IBM WebSphere kernel boot. This is the process. So I switch here, monitor, and we see it is 90 megabyte of RAM. Perform GC goes down to 40. So what it means, WebSphere is you could save with Whitefly 2 megs compared to WebSphere. Deployment in all application servers, a small war deploys usually about in 1 second. This is what it takes. Of course, the more crazy the application gets, the longer it takes. But the cool story is, why I like actually Java EE is, because the wars are always small, because there's nothing in there, everything is on the application server, the deployments are always crazy fast. Actually, in one project, I said use Java EE, and then complained it's not as fast as you said, it takes 5 seconds. And what turned out is they had a virus, antivirus scanner, and it scanned everything before something got deployed. I mean, this was a different story. But so if you're complaining about the deployment performance, check really also make the virus scanners. So they scan everything. So this was WebSphere, a Liberty profile. And I forgot actually, I think this runs on 9080. WebSphere, this is localhost 9080, I guess. Yeah. And with full Java 7 support and modular, you have full command line. So what I can do is the server list. There are all these servers. I can dump them, archive them. You can create servers and clone them on the fly. So this is WebSphere Liberty profile. So I would do Payara. And by the way, WebLogic would start with 100 meg. And this is the largest one. And the overhead would be, I think I recorded a screencast about WebLogic as well. And it was like 90 megs or something like this. So it was the largest, but it's still not a problem. So it's not like it took 500 megs. It was like twice as large, I think, like a Whitefly. It was like 80 megs or something like this. So you can always argue, WebLogic is heavyweight because it's twice as large as Whitefly. It's like what it means in numbers, 80 megs. I'm saying, okay, what problem do we have with 80 megs? And by the way, this is always a good thing to compare this with Chrome. And this window takes now 70 megs of RAM. So what it means, if you are really about lightweightness, never open a browser. Okay, so we have Whitefly, we have the Liberty. If you like Payara would be similar. So we should do this right now to be complete. So server, stop. And it stops the default server. And what do you have to do to configure this? So if you go here to user, what I did, servers, default server, card server XML, sorry. So this is the full configuration. This is the, I had to tell WebSphere use web profile 7.0. There is no full profile. There is something like web profile plus dependencies, but it doesn't matter. This EJBs and CDI, everything is included already. Okay, Payara. This is not the most recent one because I use this in production, and so start that. And I wouldn't like to start the Glassfish v5 because it's like Payara without patches, right? So it starts right now, and take a look at this, and you see it comes, this is already no more comparable because it comes with minus XMX 512 megabyte of RAM. But if we go here, we see it takes, now the JVM already freaks out, is 130 megabyte of RAM, but it has too much RAM assigned, so there is no pressure on the garbage collector to collect that. unfortunately, I will have to kill everything Java related. This happens with profiling because of class sharing, and just redo this. So, and then I would just show you, and I would then implement a small war, deploy it, and measure the performance and see where the overhead actually is, and then start the swarms. So you have the Payara swarm and the Hollow swarm, how it feels like and what's the difference. Then you will see the numbers. Good strategy. If not, we can do something else. But I try to to see how much, whatever you can actually save. Yes.
Most application servers under the hoods use OCI and do some lazy loading. Have you ever benchmarked with an application deployed on it that uses a lot of stuff how bloated they become then? Because there's a lot loaded.
Yeah. Always, actually. So we perform stress tests all the time. And I will actually create an application, if you like EGB with transactions and CDI, this is the most of that. And then if you have that, all aspects are loaded, there will be no much difference. But you're right. If the application servers were smart, they would start nothing, right? And then if you deploy first one, but you will see there will no difference, actually. So this is actually a very good point. So most of my clients, they run with 2 GB of RAM. In my perspective, I would assign more because there is, what's the point? But they just like it. So this is the most Whitefly, Payara, they run with -XMX 2 gig. And of course, this say nothing because if you start to cache in your application, it really depends what you are doing. So monitor. Now we have the Payara, we perform the garbage collection, and you see it's again 41 megs. So it seems like the 40 megabyte is the absolute limit, no limit. All the servers are 40 meg. And the Tomcat, I tested once around 10 meg. So this is what you can Tomcat or Jetty. But so it is 6 megabyte more. So you can say Tomcat is bloated because it's twice as big as my server socket, right? So, the argument is, if you know the numbers, what's the problem? Okay, one for all time, heavyweight is meaningless. Agreed? So now we have Payara, and so let's implement something. So, and yesterday I was on the how it's called Keynote, Oracle Code Keynote. And there were lots of FAAS, right? You know what it is? Food as a service, right? So this is what should be scalable here. So I would like to create a project, what I did yesterday, and just port it back, migrate it back to Java E7, because I would like to use all these servers, and this 8 would only run on Glassfish 5. And it comes with one, it comes with nothing. Clean and build. So then I would create a Java class and call it food resource with an endpoint, and the endpoint is food and one get, and I would just go with that to usually I would just that we have an EGB already, and then string get, and then because you asked me this, I would like to get. And also activate dependency injection. So I would say food manager. All enterprise apps need a manager. Then another stateless bean. And this stateless bean has or we can do request scope or whatever you like. But stateless is, I think many say EGBs are the heaviest. So with request scope, it will be slower. So I'm happy to do it with stateless. So, but food, And what we get is what we got yesterday, salad, of course, salad, so decorated salad, and some random noise. So we have this, save it, and then I can inject the food manager fm, and here say return this fm dot food. I think it's enough. So I'm just the JSON object, I will leave it. So this will be as fast, so this JSON object doesn't make a lot difference. And I hope, wait a second, that all the Payara is running. So let's deploy it on Payara. So run, and I would use Payara right now. So I have to say there's not a lot of difference between the application servers regarding the overhead or runtime performance. I mean, they're optimizing like crazy over the years. So resources, food. So resources, food, and get, what's it wrong? Misspell something? Function as a service, okay, resources and food. Yeah, works. So now we have here an app, 2 EJBs with injection. I mean, in real world, we will get probably another EJBs with some injection, so we could measure the difference. And I wouldn't like to use JPA because most of the Spring Drop Wizards project have also JPA, so there is nothing to compare. So what I would like to compare the application server specific stuff like CDI and EJBs. This is what we can, where the overhead might come from, right? So we have the Glassfish, so I will connect to that. And then what I like to do is a nice tool called Apache Benchmarks. It comes with Apache and is available on all platforms. If you install Apache Web Server, you have the tool. -C is this number of concurrent processes, let's say 5. -N is the number of requests. And I can say 1,000 and go with that. What's the problem? Yeah, -N. Thank you. So as you can see, right now, requests per second is 1,400, which is surprisingly low. And we can look now at the monitor. And we see perform GC, and doesn't affect a lot. I mean, there's a little bit, right? Because it's loaded and everything is initiated. But if I do it again and perform GC, it goes back to about 60. And this is the usual behavior in all apps. So there's actually, I would argue, if the application gets larger, yeah, and you have then you get entity manager with caches and concurrent transactions, so there's a lots of RAM. But this was never a problem. So I'm doing Java from the beginning, and I never saw a project where we have to migrate away from application server because it was too big, too slow, or whatever. It's always a fault for wrong transactions handling, locking, or whatever. Yeah? So we did this. Now there's another tool, a little bit more convenient, and work devprocs tools, and this is called JMeter 3.1. And this one, yeah, it starts. So I can say I would like to have a thread group with 5 threads, and it should run forever. And ramp up is OK. And then what I do, I add a sampler HTTP request, and this is the path. So I need the local host here and 8080. So fast resources food. And then one thing is called listener, and I only would like to have I think it's called summary report. Yes, this is what I usually need. And I say start. No. And this is important that here is 0 errors. It means this is the actual stress test. So, and this is what we do at the beginning of the projects to see, how much resources do we need. So this is my usual operation, like I'm doing this on conferences, just to get, an idea what the application server is doing. So, and then you see here, CPU usage is 60, so it is not a very good stress test because it should be 80. So it is, and we see here it needs more memory, but if I perform the garbage collection, it always goes back to around 60 on the heavy load. And now comes the cool thing. What I would like to measure is the true overhead of the EJBs, interceptors, and dependency injection. So I would like to switch to sampler and see CPU sampling. So and now this is like profiling with very, very low overhead. And what I see here is that the most overhead is sync thread worker get task. And I think the reason is I misconfigured the Payara to have just 5 threads. Doesn't really matter. But the cool story is there are no EJBs here. So at the first page, it seems like the EJBs and all the stuff do not consume any CPU cycles in relation to the other stuff. And what you should do, I'm just searching for my package. And this is, you see, these 2 classes, these are the overhead of EJBs. These are the interceptors or the proxies which start transactions, measure monitoring performance. As you can see, is the overhead of EJB in total is 0.1%. So if we would remove EJBs, we could save at most 900 milliseconds during the test. So it is pointless. So actually, I never had a stress test where the EJBs appeared on the top if we have HTTP layer. And this is natural, of course, because the HTTP layer does a lot of work. They have parsed the HTTP protocol, start the threads, how it should be. But for unknown reasons, most of the task force tried to go away from CDI and EJBs. They implemented their own framework, which never worked. And then we roll back to standard and it worked again. What became boring again, and probably you can call it now heavyweight. OK, so my point is here, in architectures, you should measure first. And pre-measure optimization is the root of all evil in architecture, because if you will create your own snowflakes with Undertow and Jaxores, no one will get why you did this, and there will be no support. Any questions about this? So then I would like, so my CPU is hot right now, but I would like to switch. Let's see. Who is from Payara? Are you Payara or just have Payara t-shirt? I forgot always the URI, domain monitoring, I think. No, monitoring domain. Yes. Server, transaction service. As you can see, we started in our tests 177,000 on 1 million transactions. And there were no rollbacks. So what we got also now, a complete monitoring of the full stack out of the box. And this is true for Whitefly, for your Liberty Profile, all application servers. This is what you get for free. If you start with your own Undertow and Jaxores, you have nothing. If you have Jersey, you have a little bit, but you get it for free. And the cool story is, I can have it as JSON, so I can create a decent React app to monitor that. Or if you have a service bus, of course, you can consume XML. If you like ASBs, OK? So this is what you get for free, and all the bulkheads are also included. No time to mention this, yeah?
And do you have to configure the monitoring?
Yeah, this is what I said. This last test is the highest possible overhead, because what I did here in Payara and my servers always run in full monitor configure. You can see this is my standard setup. All monitoring, even Corba, which is not used, is high. So the highest possible sampling and monitoring level. So, and this is why? Because we measure in all the stress tests, in all our tests with the highest possible monitoring. If it's good enough, we can go in production with the highest possible monitoring. And if not, I will deactivate it. So we always do with highest possible monitoring. Wi-Fi the same. So the first thing I do, I activate everything. So deactivating is not that easy, but what you will never do, you will never activate something in production, right? But if everything is tested, stress tested, then it's not a problem. So this was the worst possible performance you can achieve, and this was the slowest possible thing. Usually you have around 5,000 to 10,000 transactions per second, as a true transactions per second in this setup. And this is the overhead included of EJBs. Of course, there is no business logic, but I mean, if we introduce business logic, it will be pointless, the whole conversation. Agreed? Questions? No. Then I would like to stop Payara and then go to junk again, and junk because I will delete it afterwards. Java minus jar, Payara micro. Now it's the micro. And I can say deploy please, I think it's this way, deploy, FAS should be target, and then we have here FAS. So now the Payara micro started, and this is what I really like in micro Payara. You download this, it can do this. So what is the, in my eyes, the ultimate use case for micro? It is simpler if you just need this. So if you have to create a Docker file, you have just one thing, you don't have to unzip. So the Docker files are a little bit simpler. But hence I have all the Docker files. It's not a big issue for me. But if you are starting with Java, I mean, this is nice to see something like this. So Payara micro, monitor, 170 used. So perform GC, it goes back to about 30 and back to 50, 60. I would say the same almost. Yeah, to have a reproducible test, I will have to kill all the JVMs, restart my laptop. But you see, it is in the same ballpark, right? Agreed? So, and the JMeter, I could start. No? Oh, we had 10,000 transactions per second. You saw this? There were 10,000. So now we have 4,000. This is Payara now, micro. But there were 10,000. So it warmed up. So I forgot to show you. Now it's got higher and higher. OK, and Whitefly hollow. So now we had a swarm. And we have the hollow swarm. Now, this is actually the thing to use. The hollow swarm, it means it is ready to use, profile, and you only have to specify the app. So you don't have, to the whole Maven hell with all the dependency issues I don't get. You don't have to do this. So, and this is absolute nice. So what I can say is Java minus jar, micro profile swarm, and then point just to the same, to the FAS. And it starts. You see it started the JAX-RS, CDI, JSON, bean validation transactions, undertow, and JAX-RS. And then it said, this is the FAS, it is ready. So what is the overhead? Monitor, this was, where is it? Apache? Don't see it. Yeah, here's it. Monitor, 70 used, perform GC goes back to 30. So it's the first micro which you could save 10 megs. Someone asked me the question, what is my opinion about micro? You see now the numbers. Now is your choice. If you would like to save 10 meg, use micro. Okay? And the problem with a little bit with marketing. So Payara is great, but if you go to Whitefly swarm, this is what I get a lot of questions. So first, right size your services. It implies something is too big, right? And then, if you try this, you see this, simple project setup. I mean, it's too hard for a session from scratch, right? So, and the cool story is, what you get then, you will have to rebuild the Whitefly and your app over and over again. Okay? Now the last thing, build times in Docker and clouds. Very important thing. Someone said, what about clouds? Why? The micro is smaller. So now I would like to show you this. OK, so kill the swarm. And then go to FAS. And now I have my Maven project. So what I can do, I do it a little bit larger. I can say Maven clean package. And it builds the app, right? So what I can do right now, I can say Maven package and nothing, because I forgot a Docker file. So we need in FAS. And I will say I need here other and other Docker file. And what I have to say is from, this is my own Docker repository, Airhacks, let's say Whitefly, Wildfly. I forgot to show you Tommy. Tommy is very similar to Liberty, very, very small. The Tommy, and I always use the Tommy Plus. So Tommy is also great. Copy. target fas.war into deployment dir. So this is the Docker file. And now I can say docker build -t java1 fas food as a service dot -t. Build. So now you have fully executable image you can push to the cloud. So we can do it again. Now, try the same with fetch jars. So in last project, they used a technology which I not to mention, so simple boot took 40 seconds. All the dependencies were pulled and the service was right size afterwards, but why I have to wait 40 seconds just to build over and over again the same stuff? Therefore, the killer tip here, use the hollow swarm or microprofile, don't even try to build the server over and over again. Doesn't make any sense. Now, a little bit of cheating, because Docker images. And what you see here is the following. There's a lot of images. Wait a second. So this is the last image. So food as a service, and this is a 560 meg of RAM of disk space. As you can see, if I build it again, this is 560 over and over again. So if you see just the lines, I think no way that my hard disk has that much space. So something wrong with the display, right? And now I show you something. Docker history, J1 FAAS. Now it's the killer feature of application servers using the application servers in the clouds. And thin wars. If you do this, look at that. Okay. So what you see here, the first layer is the CentOS operating system was built 6 months ago. Now here, I built, this is Java, 6 months ago, Java 8, 200 megs. Then 4 months ago, I created a Whitefly, and these are the layers. And the cool story is, what we built today, about 1 minute ago, is 4K. So, and this is why you always need the separation between the infrastructure and the war. And the cool story is what you do in the clouds. You get zum Beispiel is, for example, it's German. You get in Amazon, Google Cloud, Azure, or Jelastic, your private Docker registry. And you will push the 560 megabytes minus the 3K once. Okay? And then what you are pushing, the Docker is like a Git, and understands that nothing changed, all the layers are the same. Then you would only push the 3Ks. Therefore, in all my clouds projects were crazy fast, because pushing to the cloud, it took no transfer of 3 kilobytes. But if I would use, let's say, the swarm without the hollow, I will create, first, my build would be crazy slow. I will have to build in Maven all the things. And my jar would be, let's, wait a second, cd junk ls minus, so you see the nanos, this is hollow swarm is 86 meg, and micro are 60 meg. So what it means, I will push each time 62 megs plus 3 kilobytes to the cloud. And this is significant. Okay? So this is, when you have clouds, you really have good reasons to use fetch jars, Uber jars. I don't even get it. I ask many times, and the most reasonable answer I got why they use Uber jars in one project say they started before Docker, and back then they didn't know better. So this is what I understand. But right now, it doesn't make any sense. If you think from software engineering perspective, why I should build over and over again the same stuff if only 3 kilobytes out of 60 changes? If I will migrate everything to the POM, I will build the 60 megs over and over again. Why? If you know the answer, you can give me now, or we can move out. But I have no idea. Okay. So I think we're almost done with the time, right? Any questions? Because I have next session, right?
I do have a question. If, after seeing all these numbers, we can infer a reasonable amount of certainty that, in the end, all application servers are apparently equal or superficially equal, when you decide what application server you're going to use, assuming there's no requirement from your client or something like that,
Very simple. If the client has already a contract with Red Hat, Whitefly. If they have Tomcat, Tommy. And if they have do something with Glassfish or Sun, Payara, and I don't care. I use in my projects Tommy, Payara, and Whitefly. Never Micro so far. I like Micro, but I wouldn't. Why? Because if you have to configure them, you need the same XML file somewhere. So it's not like you never need a configuration. Yeah, this is what I really completely against. So in my project, you will have really good reasons to do this. So I don't get it still, and I never got an answer why to do this. Because with Docker and clouds is absolutely irrelevant. And also I got in Docklines pull requests, to use Alpine Linux instead of CentOS. But look, CentOS, there are the commands all my clients know. With Alpine, I would save 100 megs per machine, once per machine. Who cares about that? This is the same story. So we can argue then mega linear, so what linear? Who cares about 100 megabyte of disk space, right? And yeah, this is what I can tell you. In 5 years before, you could complete different answer. I would say you use Glassfish, but the reason was Glassfish was the reference implementation for which you could buy support. And this was unique, right? Something like this was never before. But right now, there's no support for Glassfish, but there is support for Payara. It's also nice because if you get Payara 5, it makes appealing because Glassfish v5 is the reference implementation for Java 8, and Payara 5, I guess, will be the patched Glassfish where you can buy support. So they have a slight advantage, I would say. Okay? Then thank you. I have to go to the next session. If you need an ugly sticker,